Welcome to Two Open Doors, the podcast that explores our power to open or close the doors of relationship with the important people in our lives. We hope you'll learn from and share your wisdom with our community. Thanks for joining us. Looking back, we've seen how relationships hit their potential only when both partners open their doors to receive one another. We've also applied the emotional, mental, physical, or EMP model of relationships to identify the three different components or levels of connection that are present in any deep relationship. With that context in mind, we can now begin to explore each of the EMP levels in more depth. This will enable us to systematically identify some of the many more focused topics that we'll expand on in later posts. Let's start by considering the power of pleasure. Deep human connection brings us many good things: a sense of belonging, energy to engage more fully in life, meaning to attach to the goals and activities we choose to pursue. All of these are good things in the sense that they help us thrive and not just survive. To use a term that we encountered in our initial discussion of the emotional dimension of relationship, all of the preceding benefits of healthy human connection have a positive emotional valence. They're all deemed good or pleasant. Deep human connection is profoundly pleasurable. In our society, pleasure is often positioned as something that's inappropriately self-indulgent, something that we should keep in check, and to be applied only in moderation. We Westerners often look at pleasure with distrust at best, and potentially with revulsion at worst. In the Two Open Doors perspective on human connection, pleasure is seen as a human birthright, and as something that is both natural and essential to thriving. In Episode 5, we introduced the life philosophy of the ancient Greek philosopher Epicurus, which focused on avoiding pain and anxiety, using the senses as a way to know the world, and enriching life through friendships. In the Epicurean worldview, our physical side offers us a valuable path toward fulfillment, a path that is complementary to that of emotional connection. In future episodes, we'll explore some of the many ways in which pleasure acts as a powerful force in our lives. We'll introduce the science of sexology and how the science can help us better understand and appreciate the force of sexuality and sensuality in our lives. We'll consider the ideas of gender and sexual orientation, and we'll see how those ideas are more complex and more far-reaching than is the prevalent binary notion of gender that prevails in our society. Some future episodes will venture into terrain that's new to Two Open Doors. More specifically, we'll be exploring sensuality and sexuality in addition to emotional intimacy. Those areas are very important to human contentment and to meaningful, deep human connections. Needless to say, our society is so conflicted about sensuality and sexuality that those topics are usually treated as taboos, other than in their use as marketing tools. Nevertheless, hiding from or trying to disown our deeply rooted sexuality is a recipe for an unhappy and unhealthy life. Two Open Doors is intended to be a place where these and other challenging topics can be discussed and explored. As a PhD sexologist and a relationship and intimacy coach, I, Claude, am committed to supporting a safe and respectful forum for these important explorations. I will continue to moderate the Two Open Doors Facebook group and the Two Open Doors website as safe havens for our community. Please exercise your choice as to whether you'd like to explore these enriching but non-mainstream aspects of relationship, though I encourage you to consider the personal growth and the expansion of personal horizons that can accompany such explorations. I will mark any episode that contains frank adult content as such. Note that the discussions in Two Open Doors are not pornographic in any legitimate sense of that word. They are honest and direct, but they are intended for education and for frank adult consideration and discussion, rather than for entertainment. So with that, let's turn to considering the physical plane of relationship. Returning to the EMP model, there are many aspects of the physical dimension of human connection. In the realm of sensuality, we'll want to examine how our senses, all of them, can be a tremendous source of satisfaction for us. We'll examine body image and the many ways in which that can affect both our self-image and our enjoyment of life, or lack thereof. We'll think about how to maintain a healthy level of focus on our sensual experience of life, while avoiding an extreme level of self-focus on pleasure which could impede our free choice, and which could diminish our availability to focus on shared pleasure with others. In examining the physical side of relationship, we'll also take an in-depth look at our human sexuality. We'll explore how the human sexual response cycle, or SRC, works, and we'll touch on some of the many misconceptions about human sexuality. We'll consider how sexual arousal works, as well as how attachment creates the bonds of relationship. And we'll review the major sources of challenges in our sexual lives, and what we can do to avoid, reduce, or remove those challenges. Human sexuality is a limitless adult playground which engages not only our body, but also our mind, our emotions, and even our sense of spirituality. Good sex is one of the most immersive and satisfying experiences that a human being can have. It provides fertile terrain for self-exploration and for the exercise of creativity and imagination. It provides a means by which two people can share the gift of pleasure with one another. Of course, it can also serve as a source of pleasure to be enjoyed by oneself. We'll want to look at topics such as the many pleasures offered by sensual massage, and the expansion of those pleasures into sexual massage. We'll consider various sexual techniques and discussion of why techniques and a performance-oriented approach to sexuality can, if taken to excess, actually impede rather than further a good sexual connection. We'll consider the role of masturbation or self-pleasuring in maintaining a healthy sexual life. We'll look at the use of sex toys as enhancements for creative sexual play. And with regard to coloring outside the box, we'll look at participating in the practices described as BDSM, or bondage, submission, sadism, and masochism. Also, looking at coloring outside the box, we'll think about the form of consensual non-monogamy that's known as swinging, or the lifestyle. Further, we'll look at participating in the collection of different forms of consensual non-monogamy, known as polyamory. We'll also revisit this topic when we consider the emotional plane of deep human connections. Let's turn now to the mental plane of the EMP model. Everyone thinks about the physical aspects of human connection to one degree or another. We all have accumulated beliefs and attitudes about sex and sexuality. Also, a head-level understanding of sexuality is an important ingredient for nurturing an enjoyable and healthy sex life. In future episodes, we'll explore these and other aspects of the mental level of human connection. We'll consider the nature of the often uneasy relationship between sex and society, the also frequently conflicted views of sex that are espoused by religions and the clergy, sexual myths that can be found in society, and knowing how to cultivate an environment that is conducive to deep connection, such as according importance to being present in the moment of relationship with a partner. And we'll consider the importance of clear and effective communication in sensual and sexual experiences, so that partners can respectfully honor boundaries and preferences while maximizing each other's pleasure. Let's turn now to the emotional plane. As we've discussed in previous episodes, relationship exists largely on an emotional plane. We've noted that intimacy entails an open, honest, and caring emotional connection between two people. Several of our earlier episodes have focused on the fundamental nature of human relationship. In future episodes, we'll take a more detailed look at important aspects of how emotions play into relationships. These discussions will include the many styles of intimate human relationships, including monogamy and polyamory. We'll look at the benefits and challenges associated with each of these. We'll consider the many ways in which love can be manifested in a deep human connection. We'll discuss the notion of love languages, through which particular individuals prefer to express their caring for a partner. We'll discuss the foundational importance of self-love and how both giving and receiving can be kept in a healthy balance. We'll examine a portrait of what a healthy and vital intimate connection looks like, as well as what disturbing factors can enter into and disrupt an intimate relationship. Now, let's consider the spiritual plane. Spirituality is an elusive and hard-to-define term. In my own experience, spirituality is a label I apply to my sense of deeply felt connection with other people and with the world I inhabit. I see spirituality as something that exists on the emotional plane. It seems to be rooted in feelings. Note that I do not equate the term spirituality with religiosity. The latter term describes a particular set of beliefs and associated prescribed behaviors, which may be motivated by spirituality, but which also exists very much in the realm of human interactions and social behaviors and constraints. While I am strongly influenced by spirituality, I personally have no felt need for religiosity in my own life. There are a number of aspects of spirituality that we'll explore in Two Open Doors. These include the idea of sacred sex, or how sexual experiences can profoundly connect us with a sense of transcendence. We'll do some exploration of how one might choose to live life in accordance with Epicurean principles. And we'll look at Tantra, which means weaving together in Sanskrit, an ancient tradition that brings together sexuality and spirituality. So we're preparing to take the plunge. As we've seen in this episode, pleasure is one of the overarching benefits of deep human connection. The EMP model of relationship can serve as a valuable map for identifying and organizing the many topics that are worth exploring in the quest for instilling a healthy sense of pleasure into deep human connections. Please join us as we begin our voyage through these many interesting topics. To learn more about Two Open Doors and to engage with our community, I'd like to invite you to visit the Two Open Doors website at twoopendoors.com and the Two Open Doors Facebook group. Finally, I invite you to contact me directly by writing to me at Claude, C-L-A-U-D-E, at twoopendoors.com. I'd love to hear from you, and I'll use your inputs to guide my work on future blog posts and podcasts episodes. Thank you very much for visiting Two Open Doors.